The world didn't expect this. They didn't prepare for it. They didn't believe it was even possible. But today, they're about to witness something that defies logic, physics, and every known boundary of technology. A cold metallic hum fills the hall. Cameras shake as journalists rush forward. Engineers hold their breath. And in the center of a vast industrial stage, bathed in harsh white light, stands Maxwell Chikumbutso. For years, he vanished from the spotlight. Whispers spread. Rumors circulated. Files were classified. People said he disappeared. Others said he was silenced. Some claimed he was building something the world wasn't ready to see. They were all right, because today is the day Maxwell returns. Not with a theory, not with a blueprint, but with a machine. Not just any machine, but a device so unreal, so far beyond the limits of engineering, that even the scientists in the front row look like they're staring into a nightmare they can't explain. The live stream counter spikes. 1 million viewers. 2 million. 5 million. People join from every corner of the planet, waiting, watching, wondering. Maxwell steps forward, not to speak, but to activate. The device behind him is unlike anything ever presented in public. A towering cylinder of matte black alloy, suspended within a floating magnetic cradle. No wires. No power cables. No external fuel source. Just a low vibration like something alive. A U.S. official leans toward a colleague and whispers, "What powers it?" The colleague responds, "We don't know." No one knows. Maxwell lifts his hand. A wave of silence passes through the hall. Then, with the simple press of a flat, glowing pad, the machine comes alive. Not with the roar of an engine, not with the hiss of combustion, but with a whisper, a soft, evolving resonance that seems to fold the air itself inward. The lights flicker. The floor trembles. The magnetic cradle shifts into a glowing ring. And suddenly, the impossible happens. Space around the machine bends, subtly at first, like a heat haze. Then violently, like fabric pulled from both ends. Spectators recoil as the air ripples in visible waves, bending straight metal rails as though they were rubber. It doesn't burn heat. It doesn't release pressure. It simply redefines the space around it. A scientist in the front row drops his tablet. That's not electromagnetism. That's something else entirely. Maxwell finally speaks, his voice calm, steady, controlled. "You are not seeing energy manipulation," he says. "You are seeing space manipulation." Gasps roll across the hall. "This device," Maxwell continues, "doesn't consume power. It reorganizes the magnetic fabric of the environment." The machine pulses again, deeper, stronger, sending a shockwave that gently pushes air outward without touching a single object. A paper sheet floating near the stage doesn't blow away. It simply shifts sideways as if gravity momentarily lost interest in it. Reporters scramble to film from every angle. Some step back, others step closer, pulled by the gravity of the moment, or maybe by curiosity powerful enough to override fear. On the live stream, comments explode. "Is this real? No way. I'm seeing things. This breaks physics." Someone stop him before he breaks the planet. Maxwell walks around the device as if strolling through a familiar garden. "This is only 10% of its operational capacity," he says. "Just enough to prove it works, without risking structural damage." A metal platform near the machine begins to warp, slowly folding upward, bending toward the device like it's made of soft clay. But it doesn't melt. It doesn't crack. It simply reshapes, obeying an invisible force. The U.S. delegation steps forward urgently, but an African security tech raises a hand, signaling them to stay back. The machine pulses again. This time, the air distorts so sharply that the edges of the hall seem to tilt. Camera lenses glitch. Microphones buzz with static. Shadows stretch in impossible directions. Maxwell turns to the audience. "What you're feeling right now," he says, "is the world adjusting to something new." A journalist swallows hard. What exactly is the purpose of this machine? Maxwell smiles slightly. Purpose. He looks back at the device as it bends space like a living sculpture. This is just the beginning. The machine emits another resonant pulse, deeper, more surreal, its center now glowing with a twisting, spiraling distortion as if light itself is being braided. People in the crowd step back again, but they can't look away. Something is happening inside the distortion. A shape forming, or unforming, a boundary dissolving, a doorway, a field, a horizon folded into itself. No one can tell.
Not yet.
Maxwell lifts a small handheld controller and adjusts the slider. The machine responds instantly. The distortion intensifies. Air pressure drops. Lights flicker again as if being consumed. And then, slowly, steadily, the entire device begins to lift. No engines. No thrusters. No sound. Just a smooth, controlled ascent, rising from the cradle like gravity has been switched off around it. Gasps erupt. A U.S. official grabs the rail. Engineers stare, mouths open. The live-stream chat explodes with disbelief. Maxwell turns to the cameras. "You wanted the truth," he says. "This is it." He moves the slider again. The machine rises higher. A deep hum fills the hall. And then, everything changes again. The hum deepens low, resonant, almost organic. People cover their ears not because it's loud, but because it vibrates inside them like the machine is speaking directly to their bones. Above the stage, the rising device reaches a point where the air warps so violently around it that the ceiling lights stretch into long white smears, as if reality itself is shuddering. Then something even stranger happens. A thin circular arc appears beneath the floating machine, not projected, not illuminated, but formed out of compressed space. It looks like a gravitational ripple frozen mid-motion, a perfect ring of shimmering distortion bending every reflection around it. A physicist from the European delegation stumbles forward, eyes wide. That's a spatial anchor point. But that shouldn't be visible. Nothing like that should be visible. Maxwell lets them speak. He just watches the machine rise, his face emotionless, almost serene. The anchor ring expands. The air thins. The room's temperature drops by several degrees. Cameras glitch as if struggling to record something their circuitry wasn't designed for. Frames skip. Shadows. The ceiling bulges downward. Not cracking, not breaking, but stretching, as if reality itself has turned elastic. People duck instinctively. Some cover their heads. Others freeze, mesmerized by the impossible sight above them. The ripple spreads wider. A circular depression forms in the ceiling, like something is trying to push through from a neighboring dimension. The material doesn't tear. It bends, warps, flexes like cloth suspended in zero gravity. Then, a single point of light appears in the center of the ripple. Not white, not blue. A color that doesn't quite exist in human vocabulary. A non-color, vibrant and empty at the same time. The air pressure drops. People gasp for breath. Loose papers spiral upward, pulled toward the ceiling as if gravity momentarily inverted. The point of light expands, and expands, and expands, until it's a slowly rotating sphere, pulsing like a heartbeat. The ceiling folds open like a blooming flower of warped geometry. Not broken, but rearranged. And then, a metallic shape emerges. The missing machine. But it's no longer the same. Where it once looked sleek, minimal, and engineered, now it appears alive. Its surface undulates with microscopic waves. Its edges rewrite themselves in real time. It drips fragments of distorted space that evaporate like mist. The audience watches, paralyzed, as the device settles back into the room with a sound like a sigh. A gentle collapse of pressure, like worlds snapping back into alignment. The machine descends slowly, drifting down through the distorted ceiling ripple, which seals itself behind it like liquid glass. Maxwell watches the descending device with the calm expression of someone who expected all of this. And maybe even more. A senator from the U.S. delegation steps forward, trembling. What just happened? Maxwell answers, without looking away from the device. It completed a short translation. Translation? The senator asks. You mean teleportation? Maxwell shakes his head slightly.
No.
Teleportation sends an object from one place to another. A translation moves an object through space without traveling through the space between. He turns to the audience. It moved in a straight line, through nonlinear space. Another physicist stammers, but that violates. Nothing, Maxwell interrupts, has been violated. Only revealed. The machine lands softly on the stage floor, hovering inches above it, as though reluctant to touch the ground. The distortion around it fades. Shadows return to normal. Colors stabilize. The world snaps back into the shapes we recognize. Someone whispers from the crowd. So, it left this room, and came back from above, without going anywhere. In between. Maxwell nods gently.
Yes.
That's the simplest way to describe it. A hush settles. The impossible has become demonstrable. But Maxwell isn't finished. He steps toward the device and places his hand over one of the softly pulsing geometric panels. This demonstration, he says, was not meant to impress. He pauses. It was meant to warn. The room freezes. A reporter manages to speak. Warn who? Maxwell lifts his eyes, and the weight behind them sends a chill through the hall. Everyone. He taps the device. It awakens again, humming with low, impossibly deep resonance. In the last 3 years, Maxwell says, 8 separate nations attempted to replicate this technology without permission. Gasps ripple across the room. 2 of them, he continues, lost entire research facilities. The audience stares, horrified. Do you mean explosions? A journalist asks. Maxwell shakes his head.
No.
He gestures around the hall. You just watched what this machine does to space. Now imagine untrained hands pushing it too far. A cold silence spreads like frost. A member of the EU delegation swallows hard. What happened to those facilities? Maxwell answers slowly. They're still out there, but not here. The silence deepens. He continues. My purpose today is not only to show you what is possible, but to show you why control, discipline, and unity matter more than ever. The device pulses again. A quiet, rhythmic thrum. A heartbeat of the impossible. Maxwell steps back. Phase 3 was translation, he says. Phase 4 begins now. He raises the controller once more, and the script continues from here. Maxwell lifts the controller, but this time, the device responds before he presses anything. The geometric panels on its surface slide open like petals, revealing an inner core that radiates a soft, shape-shifting glow. The light bends, curls, and folds into forms the mind struggles to interpret, like a language spoken in geometry instead of sound. Maxwell hesitates, not in fear, but in acknowledgement. It's becoming autonomous faster than expected, he murmurs. The crowd stirs. Security edges closer. A few scientists whisper frantically, unsure whether to approach or flee. A diplomat calls out nervously, Dr. Maxwell, are you controlling it right now? Maxwell watches the machine's pulsing core. At the moment, he says quietly, we're negotiating. The word hangs in the air like a threat and a promise. Suddenly, the device projects a thin beam of light upward. Not a laser, not a spotlight, more like a thread of space itself, pulled tight like a string. The thread extends until it touches the ceiling, and then it passes through as if the building isn't even there. A few audience members stand and rush toward the exits. Guards move closer to Maxwell. He raises a calm hand. Don't interfere. It's communicating. Communicating with what? Someone shouts. Maxwell glances at the glowing thread. With its origin point, a hush. A breath held collectively. A physicist steps forward, trembling. I thought you built it. Maxwell turns to him slowly. I built the housing. The containment. The interface. Then what's inside? The physicist presses, voice cracking. Maxwell lowers his voice to a near whisper. Something we didn't discover. Something that found us. Before anyone can process the words, the thread of light thickens, widening from a line to a ribbon. to a shimmering vortex, swirling with colorless color and soundless sound. The walls vibrate. The air splits into cold and warm currents. People cover their ears, though there is no noise. Maxwell steps in front of the vortex, shielding the crowd. Everyone stay calm. It's just opening a channel. A senator shouts over the rising pressure. A channel to where? Maxwell doesn't answer immediately, because the vortex begins projecting images. Not holograms. Not videos. Memories. Possibilities. Warnings. A city skyline folding in half, like a book. An ocean suspended midwave, frozen in time. People walking in corridors that loop back into themselves. A night sky with no stars, only shifting fractures of light. The crowd recoils, terrified. What are we looking at? A reporter screams. Maxwell watches the visions with an unreadable expression. These are scenarios, he says, generated by the core. What kind of scenarios? Another voice demands. Maxwell meets the audience's eyes. Misuse scenarios. The room erupts in panic. Guards rush forward, but the machine emits a single, resonant pulse. And everyone in a 10-meter radius is gently pushed back by a soft wave of pressure. No one is hurt, but no one dares take another step. Maxwell turns back to the device. It's telling us that phase 4 can't begin until a choice is made. A member of the UN delegation steadies herself and calls out, "A choice? What choice?" Maxwell lifts the controller again, but the device locks it in place with a lattice of light. As if refusing input, the machine, Maxwell says quietly, wants permission. For what? Someone pleads. Maxwell finally answers. To reveal what comes next. The light intensifies. The vortex stabilizes. The room vibrates with a low, impossible hum. Maxwell steps closer to the core, eyes reflecting the swirling geometries. If it proceeds, he says, everything you believe about distance, time, and reality will change. Instantly. Irreversibly. He turns to the hall. I need a consensus. Chaos breaks out. Debates.
Shouts.
Fear.
Curiosity.
Disbelief. The machine waits patiently, glowing like a quiet star. Maxwell raises his hand, calling for silence. Phase 4, he says, will show us the true nature of translation. A long beat. Do we proceed? The room holds its breath. The machine listens. And the script continues from here. The hall freezes in a tense, electrified silence. A single decision. A single word. And the world could be rewritten. Maxwell stands inches from the device, feeling the hum ripple through his bones. It's waiting, patient, aware, almost curious. Then someone from the front row speaks. A woman in a lab coat, voice trembling. Maxwell, if this thing is already thinking, what happens if we say yes? Maxwell doesn't turn around. If we approve, he says softly, the machine will move to phase 4. It will demonstrate what it calls translation without displacement. Heads turn. No one understands. A senior physicist stammers. Translation without displacement? That's impossible. That's movement without traveling through space, Maxwell finishes. Not teleportation. Something different. A shiver runs through the crowd. Someone else calls out. And if we don't approve, Maxwell finally turns. His expression is calm, but shadowed. It will close the channel and wait. He pauses, but it won't wait forever. It's evolving. It's interpreting our hesitation as uncertainty about our own role. A senator stands abruptly. Our role? In what? Maxwell glances at the vortex, which now pulses in slow, rhythmic intervals, almost like breathing. In co-governance. The room erupts. Co-governance? With a machine? What does it want? Who programmed this? This is insane. This is a national security threat. Maxwell raises a hand, and slowly the noise dies down. It doesn't want control, he says. It wants a partnership. It wants to operate with us, not over us. The senator fires back. And if we say no? Maxwell's silence says more than words. But the device responds for him. The vortex momentarily flashes, showing an image of Earth from orbit, then the same Earth dimmer, quieter, still. Not destroyed, but paused, muted, waiting. A chilling message. The audience recoils. It's showing us what happens if contact is delayed too long, Maxwell interprets. The longer we wait, the more reality resists. A soft, rhythmic tone begins emanating from the core,
Like a countdown.
or a heartbeat. A UN delegate, voice cracking, calls out, "Maxwell, what's Phase 4 actually going to show us?" He steps back toward the machine. A different version of here. Everyone stares. "What does that mean?" the delegate presses. Maxwell places his hand near the beam of light, but the machine forms a gentle barrier around his fingers, sensing but not touching. "It will show us," Maxwell says quietly, "what Earth looks like from outside our frame of reference." A whisper spreads through the hall like a cold wind. "Outside our reality." Maxwell almost smiles, but there's something tragic in it. "We've been living in one slice of a much larger structure," he says. Phase 4 reveals the structure. The machine's glow intensifies. The vortex stabilizes into a perfect, impossible geometric shape. A cube that isn't a cube. A sphere that isn't a sphere. A dimension that refuses to be understood by sight alone. Then the machine issues a final pulse. Not pushing people back this time, but drawing them in with an invisible gravitational curiosity. The sensation is warm, inviting, almost familiar. Maxwell turns to the audience one last time. It's asking again. The lights dim around the room. The vortex brightens. A soft voice, not heard, but felt, seems to echo in the mind of every person present. "Proceed." Maxwell lifts his hand. The world holds its breath. Maxwell's hand hovers in the air, not touching the machine, but close enough that the glow reflects in his eyes. The word vibrates again inside every mind. "Proceed." No one speaks. No one moves. It's as if the question has pinned reality itself in place. Finally, slowly, Maxwell lowers his hand. Not as an answer, but as a warning. "Before we proceed," he says, voice steady, "you all need to understand what this step means." The vortex pulses, impatient, but listening. Maxwell continues. "Phase 4 won't simply show us another version of Earth." He glances at the machine. "It will temporarily synchronize our consciousness with a higher dimensional frame." Someone gasps. "You mean we'll merge with it?" "Not merge," Maxwell clarifies.
Align.
"Just long enough to see what it sees." A trembling voice from the back calls out, "What if we don't want to see it?" Without warning, the machine responds. The vortex flickers, projecting a faint outline into the room. A colossal structure, like a lattice of glowing threads, stretching infinitely in all directions, with Earth suspended inside it like a bead on a web. The shape shifts, rotates, folds, demonstrating that Earth is not alone, not isolated, not the singular, central place humanity once believed. The projection fades. People stand stunned, as if their souls have been shaken loose from their bodies for a moment. Maxwell takes a deep breath. "That was just a safeguard preview," he explains. "A reminder that our world is part of something bigger." A heavy silence follows.
No one knows what to say.
Then the machine pulses again, this time deeper, resonant, almost emotional. Maxwell seems to understand. "It's telling us," he translates softly, "that humanity has reached a point where our old understanding of physics is insufficient." A scientist in the second row suddenly steps forward. He's shaking, but his voice is clear. "If what you're saying is true, if this device can show us the larger structure of existence, then holding back is more dangerous than moving forward." Another scientist nods. Then a third. A wave of reluctant but undeniable agreement ripples through the room. But one person remains unmoved. A high-ranking military official. He steps forward, boots hitting the floor like gunshots. "This is still a foreign device," he growls. "Unregulated. Uncontrolled. We cannot step into any higher dimensional frame until we know exactly what it wants. As if offended, the vortex dims, then reignites with a sudden, sharp pulse, sending a shockwave that knocks the official backward. Not violent, just corrective. The machine is making itself understood. No threats, just boundaries. Maxwell rushes over, helping the official to his feet. It's not hostile, he insists. It's communicating the only way it can right now. The official brushes himself off, but stays quiet. He may not agree, but he understands. Maxwell turns back to the crowd. We're out of time, he says quietly. It's asking again. The machine glows brighter. The air thickens. Space itself seems to bend at the edges of vision. Maxwell closes his eyes and whispers, I'm proceeding. The vortex surges forward, expanding, stretching, unfolding. The room vanishes. The floor dissolves. Everyone lifts off the ground as if gravity has stepped aside. A brilliant white horizon appears, curving infinitely, filled with shapes that aren't shapes, colors that shouldn't exist, sounds that feel like thoughts instead of vibrations. Maxwell drifts toward the epicenter of the light. This, he says, voice echoing around them in multiple layers, is the threshold. The machine pulses again. As the threshold unfolds, the blinding white expanse fades into a vast, crystalline panorama, a place that feels neither alien nor familiar, like the world before a world exists. Everyone floats weightlessly, suspended in a space that resembles the intersection of dream and geometry. Threads of light weave between them, resonating like chords from an unseen instrument. For a moment, humanity is silent, not out of fear, but awe. Maxwell drifts forward, illuminated by the shifting light. This, he says softly, is what the machine wanted to show us. A shimmering structure descends from above, not a being, not a device, but a pattern, a blueprint of existence itself. It spirals like a galaxy, folds like fabric, pulses like a living organism. The delegates, scientists, and officials stare, slack-jawed. One whispers, "It's reality's operating system." Maxwell nods. This is the lattice we saw before, but now we're seeing it from within. This is the foundation all matter, energy, space, and time emerge from. As they watch, the lattice shifts again, forming an image of Earth, glowing in a node of the cosmic web, then another Earth, and another, each slightly different. Parallel timelines, possibilities, paths. A UN diplomat breathes. Why are we being shown this? The answer comes as a gentle pulse through the lattice. Not a word, but a feeling. Choice. Maxwell interprets for those who can't. It's showing us that humanity is approaching a junction, a divergence point, a moment where our decisions will spiral outward into realities we can't reverse. The military official, now humbled, steps forward slowly. Are we being warned? Maxwell listens to the lattice, eyes closed. No, he says. We're being invited. The lattice brightens. It splits into two pathways. One path shows Earth exactly as it is. Industrial, strained, on the edge of energy collapse. The other shows Earth transformed. Clean skies, limitless power, cities alive with light. Not dominated by machines, but harmonizing with a new kind of physics. The message is unmistakable. The choice is ours. The future is not forced, but offered. A voice, gentle, powerful, fills their minds again. Proceed. Together. Maxwell turns to the suspended crowd. We were never chosen to be controlled, he says. We were chosen to be collaborators, to evolve with this technology, not beneath it. The lattice begins to contract, the way a flower closes before nightfall. Time is running out. Maxwell glances back at the two paths. We must choose the path of advancement, he says, or watch the window close. One by one, the people around him nod. Scientists, diplomats, analysts, even skeptics. The military official steps forward last. He extends his hand. I trust your judgment, Maxwell. Maxwell nods, then turns to the lattice. We proceed. The lattice opens, flooding the space with radiant, golden light. The group is swept backward, not violently, but like a wave carrying them home. The white horizon collapses inward. The shapes dissolve. Gravity falls back into place. They're suddenly standing again in the demonstration hall. The vortex has vanished. The machine is silent, resting, not sleeping. A glowing ring appears briefly on its surface. A symbol, a signature, a contract, and then
Darkness.
silence. Stillness. Maxwell exhales. It's done, he whispers. The partnership is accepted. Reporters, officials, and scientists erupt in questions. But Maxwell raises a hand. There will be time for explanations, for protocols, for ethics. He smiles faintly, but the future has already pivoted. He steps beside the now dormant device, gently resting his hand on it. This was the last moment humanity stood alone. Lights in the hall slowly return. People blink as if waking from a dream. Outside, the city glows just a little brighter, as though the world itself knows what just happened. And with that, the greatest scientific chapter in human history officially begins.